Hello everybody, hello again. We continue with EVIC puzzle competitions. The puzzle number 8 has just been published, and actually this puzzle is also motivated a little bit with a recent discussion here on my YouTube channel about induction and deduction. I always emphasize importance of deduction in solving IQ tests, but actually there is a little bit induction always needed. Nothing is 100% deduction actually. I can compare these IQ tests with mathematics, for example. In mathematics, almost everything is actually a deduction, but even what is called mathematical induction for proving some things is a kind of deduction. But there are some axioms, there are some rules which we do not prove. That can be set here for IQ tests too. You need to find some axioms, some rules. That is actually a dose of induction. And when you find those rules, then everything else is actually a deduction, a pure deduction, just like in mathematics. At least this should be so. For example, in numerical sequences, if you give any random number of any random sequence of numbers, you can always find at least a polynomial that will go through all those points, and you can continue with the next term according to that polynomial. But that is far away from deduction, that is far away from unique solution, and so we really need to tend to solve deductively those puzzles. But this puzzle, puzzle of the week number 8 is an example where you really need a dose of induction. Here, in this simple puzzle, it seems that everything is here, that nothing is missing here. We have two squares and two rectangles, or if you want, two fat rectangles and two thin rectangles. Deductively, nothing is missing, but there is one question we can impose here. Why are those rectangles as these? Why? What is the width of those thin rectangles, and why exactly so? So you actually here need a dose of induction to get a better deduction. If you include a dose of induction here, you will obtain just a better deduction of two sets of rectangles, two squares and two thinner rectangles. There is a better logic, but for that better logic you really need a dose of induction. So I do not completely ignore induction from IQ tests, but there should be a reasonable amount of that induction. I hope that you will enjoy in solving this puzzle. This is actually a simplified version of idea that is frequently present in many spatial IQ tests. So I hope that you will enjoy and that you will learn something. Actually, I think that I'm better in explaining things with those puzzles than with words itself. So unfortunately, I can't explain better how I think in those IQ tests, and definitely I can say that all my solutions are 100% best. I don't claim that at all. Actually, I always emphasize my new quality analysis, actually now already 10 years old, and almost actually it seems that all my tests reach at least first norm report, and that you can find a quality of my IQ tests here in this table. But what you can see here, ideally the quality should be 100%. So everything below 100% means that there is a dose of subjection in those items, and really this what I call suspicious items and bad items are really some kind of failure in my IQ tests. I really admit that. We really should tend to achieve better quality in any kind of IQ tests. Recently, I published also 2 new norms of LSHR, and really LSHR, my first test, is pretty low here, even with lower overall quality with this last final norm. And also I made a new norm for imposter. Imposter is actually a surprisingly well here. Actually, I expected a dose of subjectivity in that test, but it actually behaves well. If you can see, I actually classify this imposter as a verbal test, and it is actually pretty good according to this quality analysis too, because if you can see that my verbal tests are mainly here. My verbal tests are mainly here in this part. And imposter is actually here. So surprisingly enough, my verbal tests are not my worst tests. Actually, spatial tests are my worst tests according to that quality. Spatial tests are mainly here in this lower part, the lowest third of the table. Actually, I somewhat improved from LSHR, my first spatial test, to speed, which was my last spatial test, and I hope that I shall improve a little bit with my next spatial test. But actually this proves that spatial tests are most hard to compose. Actually, I'm fond of spatial tests, and I always actually achieved the best scores on spatial tests, the better scores than on numerical, and especially than verbal tests. I actually score pretty low on verbal tests, and somewhat lower on numerical parts than spatial tests. My best scores are from spatial IQ tests, but when you can see here, when you need to compose such tests, it's hard to obtain objectivity. It's really hard to obtain objectivity in spatial IQ tests. I now understand this pretty much now, but I really tend to make my next IQ test to be a spatial test. I guess that will be LSHR2, as I already announced a few weeks ago. However, I don't know when I'm going to finish. That I shall not go slowly. I shall go slowly. It's not my intention to make many IQ tests. I hope to make a few in my life till the end of my life. Actually, only few more tests, not very much. I also would like to make a new numerical hard test, because although my numerical tests are here pretty well in this table, my first and the hardest test, numerus, is pretty low here, as you can see. The hardest my test, numerus, is here in the lower third, and I would really like to make one new numerical test which will be harder and better than numerus. And I also would make to improve PERT, to make something better than PERT, something better and easier, but not that easy as LIPT. LIPT was a really easy test, so the higher quality of easier test is actually expected. It's not hard to make easy IQ tests of highest standard. It's actually challenging to make hard tests of great quality. So I don't plan to make many IQ tests in the future. Actually, I am aware of a dose of subjectivity in those tests. I always encourage people to take those tests only for fun. I really don't guarantee you any 100% measure of your intelligence. That is not possible by simple IQ tests, even if they were perfect by this table. It's not everything in life in solving those tests. You cannot measure someone's ability simply by 30 or 50 or whatever kind of some spatial, numerical, or verbal items. So just take those tests for fun. And actually, I hope to concentrate more on this YouTube channel, on this EVIC puzzle competition, where I really I hope to publish more puzzle, of course easier one, because it's really hard to compose harder puzzles, and because actually I don't want to reveal everything about IQ tests. This YouTube channel is for fun and to reach more people in IQ world, but not to reveal the solutions of anything significant in IQ world. Although a dose of that will be present, of course. I need to reveal something if I want to compose those puzzles and if I want to explain their solutions. So enjoy. You can criticize my IQ tests and my solutions as many as you want. I shall never say that you need to solve my IQ tests. Neither I shall promise you anything better than this, what I already presented here, that there is a dose of both objectivity and dose of subjectivity for my IQ tests. I try to measure that. I try to encourage you to take that for fun and as some crude estimate of your performance in intellectual sense. And finally, for those who were with me till the end of this video, I have a secret for you. Today I put Mr. Putin in jail. There is a link in the description that you can see how I put Mr. Putin in jail. It will be fun. Okay, thank you very much for watching. See you next time.